Teachers are doing a whole lot more than people think.
Yes, they are.
They're feeding them. We're clothing them. We're providing prom, outfits and attire, tickets, you name it. Our teachers are doing it, and people don't see that part. That's what I was saying about that 97%. Yeah. We only focus on that 3%. Yeah. But we don't see all the good that's going on in our schools. Like I said, you're right. Kids cannot focus.
Yeah, that's
if
true.
They're hungry. I used to feed mine before every major test. That was a requirement. They had to come in and they had to eat. It was breakfast. My husband, when I asked him about going back in the classroom, he was like, no.
This is Dr. Rodney Ducker with the Lively Art of Conversation, where we live, we learn, we earn, we pass it along. Join us every Sunday at 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. as we bring to you our story on the lively art of conversation. It's more than just a radio show and the podcast. It is our story that creates your story based off your tests, based off your message, and also based off your triumphs. Everything about our story creates your story, and it's our tribe that creates your vibe on the lively art of conversation. So thank you for joining us on the lively art of conversation, where we live, we learn, we earn, we pass it along. Tune in. This is Dr. Rodney Ducky with the Lively Art of Conversation, where we live, we learn, we earn. My goodness, we pass it along, and you're back with us. This is 2026. This is that thing we call the new year. But you know me, I'm not about that new year thing. I'm about every day as a regroup, reorganize, and restart again moment. So we're not going to wait for a whole year to correct any mistakes that we have. We're going to do it the next morning that we wake up. And guess what? I got a show for us today. But before we do that, I have to do what I always do. I have to give shout out to my underwriters. My underwriters mean so much to me. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for giving me the monetary currency to make this thing float and move. And hopefully that I'm doing you guys right by just introducing these wonderful guests to the show. So at this time, I'd like to take a moment for my underwriters.
This is Lavina Sabri with So Natural Catering and Bomb A Lemonade, and you're listening to The Lively Art of Conversation.
Hello. This is Rodney Ducky with the Lively Art of Conversation. As we live, we learn, we earn, and we pass that wisdom along. Join us every Sunday from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. as we bring to you our story. You bring your story, we give you our story, and our story is how we engage in our community. Everybody has a story, and we're waiting to hear your story. So if you're interested, reach out to us at livelyartofconversation@gmail.com.
Looking to elevate your brand or capture unforgettable moments? New Image Media offers top-tier videography, photography, personal branding, and more. They combine creativity and quality with fair pricing and friendly service so you get the results you want. Whether it's a business promo or special occasion, they bring your vision to life with quality you can trust. Choose New Image Media, where your image is everything. For more info, email media@newimagemiallc.com. Words have power. They connect, heal, and inspire. That's the mission at Better Watch It Tone, LLC, founded by Toni B. Shelton. She's empowering through powerful poetry and prose, with hundreds impacted through speaking events, workshops, and 8 self-published books. Ready to honor the story within? Discover books and coaching at betterwatchitone.com. For event poetry or book writing support, email ToniShelton@gmail.com. Let's use our words to uplift. Better Watch It Tone. You've built a life worth celebrating. Now it's time to be seen. At Las Foto de Lance Photography, they don't just take portraits, they capture the fire in your spirit and the power in your presence. Whether you're reclaiming your confidence, owning your story, or stepping into a new chapter, Las Foto de Lance Photography creates luxury images that reflect the real you. Visit lasfotodelance.net or drop by their Harker Heights studio. Las Foto de Lance Photography, unapologetically you, immortalized.
Hello, this is Dr. Rodney Duckett with the Heritage Legacy Curators. You're looking for something for your kids to do this summer? Well, reach out to me at Impact Outreach, IMPAC Outreach at gmail.com, because Heritage Legacy Curators is all about collecting oral history. So if you have stories that you would love to pass down to your kids, or if you have a project that maybe your kids need to do as it relates to oral history, bring those family albums out and we'll sit there and we'll sort through those family albums, so that way we can collect those stories and keep those stories within the family, so that way they can be the next speakers to curate your family reunion. And you're back, and we're back, and we're all back with the lively art of conversation. I'm telling you, 2026 has been a revolution already for me. Just to get moving and get grooving. You know, when you get older, it's kind of hard for us to move around. Yes, I said older. Yes, I did. I am older, but I do feel young at times. But boy, 2026 is a rough year. Yeah, it's a rough year, but we're gonna get through this year. You know, we definitely gonna get through this year, because I truly believe in life that whatever obstacles and struggles that you have, whatever the failure is, there's always massive growth at the end of it. So with that being said, the word of the week is that of knowledge. Knowledge. And think of knowledge as a form of currency. I'm back on currency again. Remember, this is a year of current, and currency encompasses a skill set in education where you apply wisdom through experience. That's what knowledge is. You learn and you apply it. That's knowledge. So knowledge works in the realm of understanding as well too, because you could take the knowledge, and as long as you understand and comprehend the knowledge, it flows betterly with you and everybody that's around you. So knowledge itself the word is a noun in a sense, but it does have a verbal action to it, and that the verbal action to currency is simple. Currency itself and knowledge flows amongst everybody. Yeah, it does. It flows amongst everybody. So what I want to challenge you guys with is, what are you doing to maximize on your knowledge in 2026? What books are in front of you? What podcasts that are educational in front of you? Are you going back to school? Are you tackling new challenges? We live in a society where we have education just at the click of the mouse, and many times we do not use our YouTube properly. That's right. I said it. We don't use our YouTube properly, because I can always tell who's out doing something good by watching their YouTube when they send me a video. Hey, Rod, check this video out. And then it opens up the video and shows me everything you've been looking at. And it's like, this ain't even educational, man. So make sure when you're on YouTube, make sure when you're on these platforms and you're gaining knowledge, you know, you're really pulling in things that's going to help you and make you better. Remember, this year is that of currency and current. And with that being said, I have a guest today, and this guest's job has always been about knowledge. It's been about knowledge, and for the betterment of not just herself, but the betterment of the community that she lives in. And I happened to meet her like 4 or 5 years ago, but her name kind of rung in certain buildings that I was in. I would always hear this name, and then I would hear this name, and then I would hear this name, and it would be the same person. And when I actually met the person, it's like I knew the person because they said so many great things about this person itself. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, my guest here is none other than our very own Miss Dawn Richardson.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure. It is a pleasure to have you on this show. And before we get started, because there's a lot you got going on, I want you to tell the audience exactly who Dawn Richardson is. How did you get your start? Because there's a lot about you that a lot of people don't know, and I want you to give them the opportunity to formally meet you.
Oh, wow. You're right. There's a lot. I grew up in New York City. A lot of people do not know that. I grew up in New York City, educated in private schools, Catholic and Lutheran, went to a Catholic college, worked at private schools, and then on a whim went on a vacation to Hawaii and loved it, and was also challenged about getting a job there, and I stayed. And there I met my husband, who's in the Army, and who brought me back to the States, first Louisiana, and now here in the great state of Texas. From that union, we have 2 daughters, Dana and Micah, both public educated and both college graduates now, one from Baylor and one from St. John's. And myself, 39 years in the education business.
Wow. 39 years.
Yes.
Wow. It's not a lot of people that can wrap their heads around that.
Oh, but it was fun.
It was fun.
It was absolutely fun. Being an educator is the greatest reward, the greatest joy, especially when you see how these young people grow up and they turn out and they come back and they see you and they want to introduce you to their families and they invite you to their gatherings. It's just awesome because you know you've been a part of their village, and listening to them, you've been a positive part.
It's amazing. There's an African proverb that talks about, trees and seeds. I am a tree that bears seeds, and you buried a lot of seeds in 39 years. I mean, you got like 20 orchards out there of nothing but just fruits, vegetables, and flowers. Like that is amazing. How does that make you feel to run into your students again and you just see their growth from being this little human being to being an adult now?
The sensation is overwhelming, okay? Because many times, because I taught high school and middle school,
okay,
they change so much. You don't recognize them. And you'll hear this, Ms. Richardson, and you'll look and you're trying to remember who they are, and they tell you who they are, and they hug you. And then they'll tell you a fun fact that you forgot. Like this one young man just said, I want you to know, he said, me and my friends are just so grateful to you because you kept us out of trouble. You stayed on us. You made sure we graduated. He said, we always talk about you, and we never forgot that. Now, my memory, I'm going, okay, but listening to them and the stories they have, it's just awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I have, my mother's an educator, and she was a librarian, and I have educators that I see. It's so funny. I just seen my chemistry teacher last time I was home. And he was out playing golf in his front yard, something that he's been doing all his life. And it's always good to see him. And so it's very heartfelt when he says, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And he says, I'm on this journey with you.
Amen.
Yeah, so it's amazing what teachers pour into you. To be in education is one thing, but to be an educator, that again is a verb. That's an action, and to educate someone is a very powerful thing. So education and to be an educator and what that means to us as people is amazing. So how did you get started in education?
Well, I was in college, and originally my plans were to go to med school and be a pediatrician that focused on adolescent health. That's always been one of those things that held my heart, were teenagers.
Okay.
And so as I'm in college, one of my professors, actually wasn't my professor, but he was in the education department. Mm-hmm. He was over a program called Upward Bound.
Upward Bound, okay.
And he asked me as a freshman, which was unusual too, to become a tutor counselor for the program. And the whole year, my freshman year, he would say to me, have you ever thought about being a teacher? And my answer was no. And so the second year, my sophomore year, because we tutored on Saturdays, the chemistry and the biology teachers were absent. Seemed to be one of them every Saturday. So I had to take over their class. So at the end of it, I was like, this is really, this is not that little bad. I'm starting to enjoy this. So I decided to pick up education as a minor.
Yes.
Well, the next year, nobody was absent. And it finally hit me. I went in there to my boss. I said, you had those people be absent on purpose. He started laughing. They all were in on it. They all wanted me to become an educator. And I'm so glad they did.
Yeah.
I'm so glad they did.
Yeah, that's amazing. Biology and chemistry were some of my fun classes. I enjoyed it. And it's kind of funny. My chemistry teacher, I was failing his class, and of course, it got to the hands of my mother. So they'll say I was stuck in the library on a Saturday all day long. I had to retake this chemistry test, which I got 100 on, by the way.
Yay.
And that's one of the stories that he laughed. He was like, you just need a little push. I lost my whole Saturday, man. I lost my whole Saturday. But again, I have a profound love for chemistry and biology because it really taught us how to think outside the box sometimes, to solve some of these chemistry problems. And it was just fun to go in the lab and mix stuff up. So, so chemistry is like a cool thing. So for you, you've done other things besides teaching, correct?
The majority of my work life has been an educator, but yes, I've worked in the office. Fun fact, I was already a teacher, but when I went to Hawaii, I couldn't get in the system right away. So I decided to do a little temporary jobs. But I asked the boss not to tell people I was a teacher because I wanted people to treat me the same way they treated anybody else. And as soon as they did find out I was a teacher, because I subbed at a school, called me to sub when I came back. They were like, we didn't know you were a teacher. Now all of a sudden they want me to be this loan processor and all of this. And then, back then they weren't done on the computer. So it was like, piles and piles of paper. I was like, no. And then luckily I did get called in. I've also, believe it or not, my first job was an assistant swim instructor.
Get out of here.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
And I've been a switchboard operator. And so I know what it's like on both sides of the coin, Both sides of the coin, yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people miss out when they don't have those kinds of experiences, to work for, an hourly wage or down with folks, or they look down on folks. Yeah. And that's so sad because it's all honest work. And they're all honest people just trying to make an honest living. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. So your stint over in Hawaii. So tell me a little bit why you was over at Hawaii.
Same thing. Fun fact. I went on vacation and I stayed in a hotel that was actually like an apartment / hotel. So there were people who were there that were older and had been there. So I decided one night to just go out and talk to folks, see what the island is about from local perspective. And one of the gentlemen who ended up, I called my grandfather over there, said, what do you do on the mainland? And I said, I'm a science and math teacher. And he said, oh, you should try to get a job here because they need science and math teachers. Well, this other lady said, oh, no. And if her skin's not yellow, and her eyes are not like this, she'll never get a job here.
Okay.
Well, I'm also a coach. And if you know anything about coaches, we are competitive.
Yes.
And so it was like, that was a challenge. So I called home and my mom even said, you don't have any children. You're not married. You don't have bills. Go ahead and try it. Okay. And the rest is history.
Wow. How long did you live over in Hawaii for?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. Wow.
Yeah, and I loved every minute of it. You talk about an Ohana spirit, that family.
Yes.
Everybody loved up on everybody. Everybody shared. I worked at Job Corps for a little bit, and the students started calling me sister.
Yes.
And I didn't know. And so it was like, let me ask. So when I asked at the faculty meeting, everybody got real quiet. And all of a sudden, one of them said, that's the highest honor they could give you. They have welcomed you into their family.
Yes.
It's like, wow.
Yes, so, yeah. That, Polynesian culture is very, very loving culture. And all my Polynesian friends out there, from Tongans, Fijians, Samoans out there, Hawaiians, very loving people.
Yes.
And one thing they will do is they will feed you very well.
Yes.
Their love extends to food as well, too. So.
Yes. Food is at every single meeting, every single gathering. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. When you think Big Mama from church can feed you, you have not hung out with the Polynesians.
Amen.
I'm telling you, because you might as well back your truck up and they're going to fill it up.
Definitely. And send you home with bags and bags. Man, they fed me one time so much that literally was a Saturday. I didn't eat again till Tuesday.
That's about right. Oh, my goodness. This is Dr. Rodney Duncan, and you're listening to The Lively Art of Conversation, where we live, we learn, we earn, we pass it along.
Words have power. They connect, heal, and inspire. That's the mission at Better Watch Your Tone, LLC, founded by Toni B. Shelton. She's empowering through powerful poetry and prose, with hundreds impacted through speaking events, workshops, and 8 self-published books. Ready to honor the story within? Discover books and coaching at betterwatchyourtone.com. For event poetry or book writing support, email tonyshelton@gmail.com. Let's use our words to uplift. Better watch your tone. You've built a life worth celebrating. Now it's time to be seen. At Las Foto de Lance Photography, they don't just take portraits, they capture the fire in your spirit and the power in your presence. Whether you're reclaiming your confidence, owning your story, or stepping into a new chapter, Las Foto de Lance Photography creates luxury images that reflect the real you. Visit lasfotodelance.net or drop by their Harker Heights studio. Las Foto de Lance Photography, unapologetically you, immortalized. Looking to elevate your brand or capture unforgettable moments? New Image Media offers top-tier videography, photography, personal branding, and more. They combine creativity and quality with fair pricing and friendly service so you get the results you want. Whether it's a business promo or special occasion, they bring your vision to life with quality you can trust. Choose New Image Media, where your image is everything. For more info, email media@newimagemiallc.com.
This is Dr. Rodney Duckett with the Heritage Legacy Curators. You're looking for something for your kids to do this summer? Well, reach out to me at Impact Outreach, IMPAC outreach@gmail.com, because Heritage Legacy Curators is all about collecting oral history. So if you have stories that you would love to pass down to your kids, or if you have a project that maybe your kids need to do as it relates to oral history, bring those family albums out and we'll sit there and we'll sort through those family albums, so that way we can collect those stories and keep those stories within the family, so that way they can be the next speakers to curate your family reunion. Hey, we're back with the lively art of conversation, where we live, learn, earn, and pass it along. I am here with Miss Dawn Richardson, and we talked about her journey over in Hawaii, and then our journey together of having the Polynesian family feed us, you know. So if you know any of my Polynesians, if you are listening out there, God bless you. You know how to take care of somebody, and that's real facts on that. But I'm here with Dawn Richardson. She's done a lot in her life. She was a school teacher. She taught for 39 years. I'm going to round up and say 40 years. So she taught 40 years as a school teacher, and she done jobs in between that. But, you know, her claim is just to be that educator and that school teacher. But I want to shift a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about her personal life, because she has 2 kids, which she says, but a husband as well, too.
Amen. Husband of 36 years, going to be 37 in September.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
He's prior military, correct?
He is military. We met in Hawaii, and one of the things that drew me to him was his quiet, logical sense.
Yes.
We are a total opposite on a lot of things, but he always helps me see the other side.
Yes.
And that's a great thing. But fun fact, how we met was at a club. He was the first one to ask me to dance. And at the end of the night, because I came with this other lady and she's kissing on this guy. I thought it was her boyfriend, by the way. So, of course, he looks at me and asked me for a kiss. And I told him no. And he asked me a couple of times and I still said no. So finally, I said, I'll give you a kiss on the cheek. So I kissed him on the cheek. This man looked at me and said, didn't your mama teach you about kissing on strangers? I was like, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to have to talk again.
Oh, that's amazing. Mr. Richardson, if you're listening, thank you for your service. And you, as they say, where I come from, you snagged a good woman. I'm pretty sure you already know that, though. I had the privilege of meeting him briefly at a function that you had, and he is kind of a quiet guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is a very quiet guy, very stoic, strong, quiet type guy. So,
but a wicked sense of humor once you get to know
really
him. Wicked sense of humor. Yes.
Oh, my goodness. So let's talk about you, in a sense. There's some things that you got going on and some things that you're doing in the community. And I've had the privilege, and to work with you with the community advocacy program that we were doing, a parent advocacy program that we was doing with Brandy Bird. And I appreciate you coming out several times to step in front of a problem that KISD has. And you said some very powerful things, and those things were transcribed and sent up to the school board. So, again, that was a very dark time for KISD. And again, I always remember the people that show up. I remember the people that show up because they wanted to put in the work, and you were one of the people that wanted to put in the work, and you said a lot of powerful things. Do you want to recap on any of that during that time?
Whew. You know, so much has gone on and has happened, but I do want to say this to our community. It takes all of us to solve these problems. And we can try to lay blame at any one thing, but it's a myriad of things that need to be corrected. And one of those is we have to come out and we have to hear what's going on in our community.
Yes.
And we have to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Because many times we get half a story and we don't know the other half. And so we need to come out and talk to each other and learn that other half. Yes. Because we have to work together. We cannot solve it without.
Yeah, a lot of people was painting the picture that this was such a negative thing that was being done. And I always reiterate, you know, the parent advocacy group that started didn't have to start if our people that was in power was able to do the right thing and establish a platform for people to come and speak about, not about the case, but just vent about concerns that has been happening, you know. And again, I do appreciate everybody that was out there, and I learned a lot from Miss Dawn Richardson that came out. I learned a lot about the school district in a sense, a lot of issues, problems that we're having, and a lot of bills that passed that is going to make it, you know, egregiously difficult moving forward. You want to talk about any of these bills that we got going on?
Ooh, well, the biggest one is the voucher bill. A lot of people hear the word parental choice or parent choice.
Yes.
And they are thinking that each parent is going to have a choice. And that's not how this is going to work. They're giving out these $10,000 vouchers to attend private schools. Many private schools that won't even cover the tuition. And even if it covers the tuition, you still have to think about transportation there and after school care there. You have to think about books and extracurriculars, because many private schools, all those things you have to pay for. You know, you're going to have to think about how your child is going to eat, because many private schools don't have a lunch program or a free breakfast program. So you have all these other things that are going to come about, and then you're going to realize, I can't afford this. So instead of that voucher going back into the pot, it just goes up the chain. And what's going to end up happening is those people who can already afford those vouchers, afford to send their kids to private schools, are the ones who are going to get the vouchers. And what's going to happen to our public schools, because people think, because they hear, well, that money came out of a separate pot. Yes, it did. And I will not deny that. But what folks don't know is we are funded by attendance. And so on snapshot day, whatever the attendance is, that is how much money you get for the whole year. So even if your attendance went up $100 students, say 3 days later after snapshot, you don't get funding for those. They have to fit into the funding you have. So if kids say, let's say 100 kids take those vouchers and they leave, remember, they're gone on snapshot day. Say they come back, we don't get that money back. And guess what? That voucher money that they didn't use just goes on back into that pot to another kid. So it's eventually going to hurt our public schools. And our public schools are enshrined in the Texas Constitution. Everybody has a right to a free education. That's not what's going to happen if we allow this voucher system to proliferate.
So, you know, I work with the youth in the juvenile detention center. How does this work as far as the kids that are in alternative school or in the juvenile detention center? Because I've been hearing some bans for these kids not to go back into the school system. Do they lose their voucher, or how does that work with them?
Well, first of all, you have to apply for the voucher.
Okay.
So it's not a given. See, and that's, again, a lot of parents are thinking this is a given. It's
Okay.
not. They're going to have to apply for them. So just because you apply for it doesn't mean you're going to get it as well.
Okay.
So it has nothing to do with where you are in the system. It has to do with the fact you have to go through the process.
Understandable.
And you also have to remember that we don't have that many private schools anyway.
Yeah.
So in our area especially, where they're going. So we're probably not even going to be benefited by any of these vouchers, maybe one or two.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say we might even get 100. But again, where are they going to use them?
Yeah.
And so that's a problem in itself. And then what's going to happen down the road is fly-by-night schools. I have a lot of feeling that there are going to be people trying to open private schools because everybody thinks they can do it better. And I'm more than sure there are folks out there who could.
Yeah.
But a whole lot of them cannot because they don't realize all the dynamics that we deal with on a daily basis with children.
Yeah. So, being that said, there's a merger that may have already happened or in the process of happening. In Killeen, wasn't there a private school that is moving in?
Yes.
Yeah. So how does that work? Because they're going to buy a school building that's shut down. So
right, but they'll have to be up and running for at least 2 years before they're able to receive voucher money.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It seems so complex. And I think the biggest rush has been that want to bring religion back into school, and they want to make school accessible and affordable and give people the right to go anywhere they want to receive an education. But it seems very confusing because I'm very confused even saying it. So,
I trust me, I understand. Here's the problem. Yes, they're trying to bring religion back into our schools. As a Christian woman who is also the youth director at her church for the past 20-something years, I am totally against it because I don't want anybody teaching my child about God.
yeah.
I want to pick who teaches my children about God. And I think anybody who truly understands and appreciates their spirituality would feel the same way.
Yeah.
And that's not the answer. Do you not get? I mean, people say they took God out of schools. They didn't take God out of schools. What they took out of schools was the adults being able to, prophesize to children and telling them their religion is wrong, or you should believe this way, or you should believe that way. That's what they were doing. They were trying to protect kids because in a public school you have all religions.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can't just focus on one. We're supposed to educate all children.
Yeah.
Not just one over here, or you have the right religion, so we're gonna educate you. No, that's not how this works. They're all children. So no, we should not have that in a school. We're there to educate. It's parents' jobs, it's communities' jobs to make sure that they're getting that Christian education.
Yes. Yes.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and that is true because not everybody's qualified to speak about religion.
Amen.
In school. And there's some people that don't believe in religion that teach it. So how do you screen these people? Is it ethical to screen these people while in school? I've had a barrage of different educators throughout my years, from elementary all the way to my doctoral degree. And not all of them were Christian. Matter of fact, some of them didn't even believe and have a faith at that time. But it didn't supersede why they were there. They were there to educate, and they didn't force any views on me. I don't think that because they were atheists, I'm a bad provider now in the hospital. So again, sometimes you get very confused because there's also atheists that are that sit on the senatorial and the congressional seats as well too. They don't believe. So should we remove them? I don't know how that works out. So.
Yeah, we're getting into the weeds on that stuff because people will say, well, they're indoctrinating kids in the public schools. I've been in a public setting my entire adult life. When it comes to schools. Like I said, I've worked in both private and public, and I've never seen anybody trying to indoctrinate some child.
Yeah.
Children learn by what they see. Now they're observing us.
Yeah.
You can take that to the bank, but I've never seen anybody stand in front of a classroom and say, "Oh, you're this or that." It's just not happening.
Yeah,
it's just not happening.
And I think it's because there's some isolated incidents that's been around the country that people focus on that. It's kind of crazy. They say that, you can do something right 90% of the time, but it's that 10% that everybody's going to make a big deal about. System is not perfect, and you identify the flaws and you reflect and you fix those flaws. You see it every Sunday in football. They call a timeout, and then everybody comes to their side, and the coach fixes them and puts them back out in the game to play. And every year you have a timeout where you can reflect on what was done wrong, how did we improve on it, so forth and so on.
You just hit something, and I wanted to piggyback. I always tell people, because like I said, I'm a public school educator.
Yes.
I always tell people 97% of our students are doing exactly what we want every day. But it's the 3% that get all the press.
Yes.
And this is why people think our schools are so bad. You can go in any of these schools on a daily basis and see so many wonderful things, but we don't focus on that.
Yes.
We always focus on the negative, and that's what's killing us.
Yeah,
it's the same thing here with the teachers. You're right. 97% of our teachers are doing what they're supposed to do. But yeah, we got a few knuckleheads, and we need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Okay? But let's look at the whole picture. And that's what we're not doing. And that's why we need our state to focus on the whole picture and to give us the resources that we need to shore up, and then we can get rid of the bad apples.
And I think, and I could be wrong, so I'm going to have you bring this back to me. I've had conversations with my own mom about this, and this is just my opinion and suggestion. I think we need to move into a hybrid state when it comes to education, because my teachers, and when I was growing up, there was parents, and they were there, regardless if there was a nucleus family or a single home, it didn't matter. So teachers done the teaching thing, but every now and then they would pop into the surrogate parent role because it was needed. But now those roles are so vast where you need a hybrid of a surrogate parent, a teacher, a social worker, a nurse. You have all these different things that you have to kind of juggle. Yeah, that's the word, juggle, right now for a student, in order for a student to get education.
Yes.
And it's not as simple as people think, because me working in a detention center, my nonprofit in the detention center, I don't work in the detention center, talk to the kids. They're hungry, so they can't sit in class and pay attention. No one can do that. I mean, especially at that age and they're growing. The young girls sometimes sit in classroom and they have personal hygiene issues, and they don't have the necessary stuff, so it becomes very embarrassing and complex. And if a teacher feeds a child, or if a teacher gives a young lady something, then that comes back on the teacher sometimes. So,
well, I guess, God has blessed me, because every classroom I've had, every office I had, I have a closet full of food. I had the hygiene products, you name it, it was in there.
Yes.
And my parents knew this. So I would have parents. I had one parent, and this was a private school, and that's why I also tell people there's very little difference between the two, except for money. I had a parent in a private school. Actually, the kid came and said, "My mom wants you to check something." So I was like, because she wants to know if he should go to the doctor. So I was like, okay, what? And he started to unzip his pants. I was like, whoa, son, whoa. So I called home. We went downstairs, and she said, yes, Miss Williams, I wasn't married at the time. She said, it's taken everything I have to keep him in that school. She said, and if I take him to the doctor, that's $90, and I really don't have that.
Oh, okay.
Can you look? So I was like, okay, but you need to stay on the phone.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, it was in the groin area. It was a boil. And so that I could tell her what to do for that. But being a science teacher, this is what would happen. Parents would call you to do those things. So, yeah, teachers are doing a whole lot more than people think.
Yes, they are.
They're feeding them. We're clothing them. We're providing prom, outfits and attire, tickets, you name it. Our teachers are doing it, and people don't see that part. That's what I was saying about that 97%. Yeah. We only focus on that 3%, but we don't see all the good that's going on in our schools. Like I said, you're right. Kids cannot focus.
Yeah, that's
if
true.
They're home. I used to feed mine before every major test. That was a requirement. They had to come in and they had to eat. It was breakfast. My husband, when I asked him about going back in the classroom, he was like, no. He was tired of cooking and helping with papers and all of that good stuff. But yeah, you have to. You know, a 40% better return rate when you feed them. Yeah. So we do that. But a lot of folks don't see all of that. They for some reason have no clue what we do in schools. I even asked people, was it that long ago? Do you not remember what teachers were doing in your schools when you were there? And maybe sometimes they didn't. I don't know. But this has been going on a while. I know your mother probably has fed more than enough.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the one thing that's always drove me crazy from the educators that I know that's out there. Anytime a teacher is pulling out of their little salary, which is not much to survive off of, to pull their money together to take care of a student, that is absolutely wrong. You know, you don't even pay them enough to do that. But it just shows you the compassion and the love and the caring that they have for their students to succeed when you can invest what you don't have into a future. And we've got people out there that will take that away from them as soon as it goes out. So I appreciate my teachers. I appreciate you, my mom, my kids' mom, for being out there and doing what they're doing every day to ensure that these kids are taken care of.
Thank you. And really, as a former educator, retired educator, I can't stress enough that how many of our teachers are going above and beyond every single day. And it's become just, I think, unfortunately, not appreciated enough. You know, people will buy supplies at the beginning of the year and be fussing because their kid needs more. You know, what did you do with it? Well, did you talk to little Johnny or little Sally? They probably have lost more than they have kept, you know, and they're kids. I mean, you know, we can't expect adult behaviors out of children.
No, we can't.
I do expect adults to help, you know, supply them and to be there for them. And, you know, when you have to encourage parents to come to their games or their concerts, you know, that's not our job as teachers. We do it. I was at a wrestling match last night, and that was because my former teachers asked me to come back.
Wow.
You know, but I looked around, I was impressed because there was a lot of parents there, but you could also see those kids whose parents weren't.
Yeah. Well, this is Dr. Rodney Duckett, and we'll be right back.
This is Dawn Richardson, and you are listening to The Lively Art of Conversation.
Hey, this is Dr. Rodney Duckett with The Lively Art of Conversation, where we live, we learn, my goodness, we pass it along. Hey, if you want to be on the show, I got great news for you. We just need you to reach out to livelyartofconversation@gmail.com. That's right, livelyartofconversation@gmail.com. If you would love to be on the show, if you like to be interviewed, or if there's some good news that you have that you want to place out there to the public, please feel free to reach out. We are here with Miss Dawn Richardson. She has talked about her journey as an educator. She's talked about her journey with the work that she does in the community still. She's talked about her wonderful kids. She's talked about her husband. And again, I like to just give all praise right now to these wonderful teachers such as Miss Dawn Richardson that are out here that's doing the work to ensure that our kids remain educated. No matter what the world's got going on, the school is going to be open, and these teachers are going to show up with all their troubles that they have at home trying to figure out how to pay the bills off a teacher's salary, but they still show up to educate our kids. So with this being said, you're in a new, I would say, profession, so to speak. You've always done the service-driven type stuff, but you're getting into the public servant type thing. Tell me more about that.
I don't even know where to start here. The thing is, I am passionate about education. I am passionate about our children and their future. And so I was actually asked about running for this position, and I was kind of hesitant. I went home and I asked my family. My husband looked at me and said, "What do you think Miss Shirley's been grooming you for?" So he was like, he said, "We already knew this." I talked to my daughters. My youngest one was like, "Well, it's about time." Mm-hmm. And my oldest one, who's an entertainer, was on a cruise ship. And we could call her on WhatsApp at night, and she was all excited. She was so excited that she sent me a campaign plan the very next morning. I'm like, you're on a cruise ship. How are you doing this? So I was still a little hesitant, but I went to a town hall of my opponent, and his answers to me is what made me decide to do this, because it is just too important. I don't think people realize what we are in the process of losing as a state, as a country. And you need people in there who are going to be honest and open with you and are going to fight for you. And that is my intention. You know, my students will tell you, as one student I ran into said, she was so proud of me. She said, you fought so hard for us while you were at Shoemaker. She said, we know you're going to fight for this community. And that's what's important, you know, that they know my heart. They know that this is not a passing fancy. This is something I aim to do and aim to do right for the people of Bell County.
You are actually boots on ground. I hate to evoke people's names, so I won't do that, but you're actually boots on ground. And I see you all over the place doing a lot of different things. And I think for you going through this campaign, what would you say the most difficult thing has been to just get this combustion going?
Getting people to come out to our events, because yes, we are knocking doors, but you know, when folks are not going to be home all the time,
yes,
some of them are going to miss us. So when they see our community events, we need them to come out. I want people to talk to me. I want people to ask me hard questions, because I want them to see who they are going to vote for, who's going to represent them. The other hard part is, of course, is always raising money.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you go car shopping, you know, you want the best for your dollar. Well, the same thing here. You should want the best representation, and sometimes that costs money to get it.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
and so every little bit helps. You know, we're not, you know, we don't expect people to give us thousands or hundreds of dollars. But if everybody in Bell County gave me $5, think about the mountains we could move.
Definitely.
And getting that message out. But yeah, we need people, we need volunteers. We need folks to come out and say, hey, I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to walk for you. I'm willing to make phone calls for you. Because again, it's about all of us. As I tell everybody, I'm not in this for me. I'm in this for we.
Yes.
This is us.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And I would say I went to one of your platforms that you had just recently, and it was just a spare of the moment. I said, well, I'm nearby. Let me show up. And I showed up, and it was very, very, very nice, well put together. But what the beautiful thing about this was there was a disturbance that was there, and it was the other aisle. It was a disturbance, and Miss Richardson, my goodness, A+ on how you handled yourself so professionally. It was just beautiful. I think anybody else would have been distracted. Now, you run your campaign by yourself. You're out front running your campaign. The other people running their campaign have people all around them to deal with the riot control or whatever. But because you are who you are and you came therapeutically at the situation and calmly, it just kind of evaporated and went away at the end. And I give you kudos for that. I've told people I was very impressed how you conducted yourself that day.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I tell people, after working in a high school, there's very few things that rattle your cage. Okay, folks don't realize we got 2,500 in these buildings.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
who are coming with all kinds of situations, like you pointed out, all kinds of problems.
Yes.
Even as a classroom teacher, when I'd have a kid I could see was about to be a disruption, I would take him outside. And the first thing I would ask is, am I the problem? And he'd say no. I said, is anybody in the room the problem? No. Then you can come and talk to us. Yes. But you will not take it out on us. So I just carried that on. But my team was there. They're just quiet.
Yes.
They're just quiet. You know, I have my commander-in-chief, I call her, Melissa Sims, and her husband, Darrell, who helps us out. And then I have Miss Ebony, my field director.
Yes.
And I have Miss Delise Coleman, who's my finance person. So, no, they were there. They take my lead.
Yes.
And they let me handle things. But if it had went any other way, you'd have met all three of them.
Yeah. It was handled beautifully, even on the outside, because he left on the outside and there was a little bit of commotion with that. But even the people that were out there, they handled it. The men that were there, they handled it very professionally, and they were concerned. They're like, "Listen, man, we're not your enemy.
Exactly.
Like, we're not your enemy, and we understand that you feel a certain way, but Dawn Richardson is not your enemy. We're not your enemy." Even went to the point of, can we all just pray together? And he didn't even want to pray. He was so angry. So, and I didn't understand why he was angry. It didn't make any sense. You didn't say anything. You didn't even say anything negative about your opponent. So, but
he's angry just because of all of the rhetoric he's listened to.
Yeah, that's true.
He wasn't there to give us a chance.
Yeah.
He wasn't there to hear me and to really listen to me. He was already there with preconceived notions.
Yes, yeah.
And I think what probably made him more angry is that we didn't live up to it.
Yeah. Yeah. The only concern that I have, and people going to get mad at me, you got to be careful with that Second Amendment thing going on, because this dude was carrying a concealed weapon, and nobody was a threat to him, and had he not been identified earlier and asked to leave based off of his threats that he was making, his intimidation threats at Miss Dawn Richardson, it could have got really, really nasty. And that's why I always say, we need to have mental health checks with that Second Amendment. We really do, because not everybody should have a concealed weapon. You have a right to protect yourself, but when you're in a space like that, you should not be using that form of intimidation with that. So, do me a favor, for people that don't know, tell them about what you're running for and why that is so important.
I am running for House District 54 in Bell County. Why is it important? Because the representation that we have now has forgotten who we are. The representation that we have now has consistently voted against many things that this district needs and wants. When you talk to people, healthcare is a major concern. And you look at our rural areas, they don't have access to the needs of their healthcare, their priorities, their clinics. They don't have the school system resources that, say, the inner cities do. Last year, one of the districts, ISDs in the rural county, actually had to cancel summer school.
Wow.
So there's a lot of concern out there. And you talk to people, when people confide in you, and they're worried about healthcare costs. They're worried about the education system. They're worried about being able to just feed their children because prices are so high. We have on one side of our district a food desert.
Wow.
Where there's no major grocery store. And so people will say, well, they can take the bus. Well, in a perfect world, that's true.
Yeah.
But this is not a perfect world. And so some of them cannot get to that. Many of those, when I worked at Fairway, for example, those parents walked to that school. Many of them did not have cars. I've taken many of them home, I know. And we're not talking close. So we have to look at what's the needs of our community and meet them. And more importantly, we need representation that is going to work across the aisle. And when I say that, not just with the Republicans, but I'm talking about from the local, the county, and the state need to learn to work together. One of the things that I feel really good about is how several of our city council members, Riacos, Adams, Jessica Gonzalez, will invite me to their town halls because I need to hear, because sometimes the things people are asking for are literally things that the state has control over, not the city. And people need to know there is a difference.
Yes.
Then, of course, I'm out here with Louis Minor, who's our commissioner, and he will come to these things too. And again, so you have the state, you have the local, and you'll have, your cities working together to solve problems.
Yes.
As opposed to, oh, well, that's the state's problem. Oh, that's the county's problem. No, we all need to be at the same table.
Yes. So, question for you: bipartisanship. Why is that so difficult? Oh,
how much time you got? You know, when you look back throughout our history, we actually want the same things.
Yes.
We just have a different way of going about it. That's not the case right now. The case is we're so polarized. People will hear, for example, when I went out, it was either Little River Academy or Rogers, and I was talking to a gentleman, and he asked me what I stood for. So I told him education, women's rights, and then when I got to affordable health care, he says, "Oh, we can't talk anymore." And I said, "Sir, can I ask you why?" He goes, "Oh, well, you believe in that government-run health care where I don't get to pick my own doctors." And I said, I didn't say that. I said affordable health care. I said no one should go broke choosing between, health care and rent. No one should have to choose between eating and getting the medicines they need. No one should be a paycheck away from bankruptcy over a medical bill. So he's like, "Oh, I can agree with that." And then we talked a little bit more, and I said to him, I said, "See, you misjudged me, didn't you?" He said, "Yes, ma'am, I did." He said, "And I'm sorry about that." I said, "See, this is why we tell y'all to talk to us. Hear what's in our hearts. Hear what we really stand for. Stop going by the labels, Dem or Republican or Independent. Get to know the people." Yeah. Because there are a lot of people who are voting against their own best interests simply because of the label.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, they need to really look at like those 17 amendments.
Yeah.
Most of those were not for regular working folks.
No, they wasn't. So
because those guys up there not thinking about us. Mm-hmm. So we have to start talking to, these folks and holding them accountable. I want people to hold me accountable if I get elected.
Yes, definitely.
I've said that over and over again. Mm-hmm. Don't let me get up here and y'all don't say, "Hey, what you doing?" And hold me accountable.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
so,
ma'am.
That in a perfect world, bipartisanship would be that we come with the same, two different ways to get to the same solution. That, unfortunately, is not happening, but that is where we need to get back to.
Definitely. As we begin to wrap it up, what we do is a little pass along. Is there anything you like to pass along to the audience that's listening right now?
Yes, please get involved. This is one of the reasons that we are where we're at, because people tend to be reactive instead of proactive. Get out here and get to know the people who are representing you. Your vote is your currency and your voice. You must use your currency wisely. Just as you research products to see which one is the best for you to spend your money on, do that with your representatives. Research us to see who you should spend your currency on, your vote. Because we all deserve good representation. We deserve representation that's going to look after our best interests. Not somebody, or a few folks over here or this minority group over here. We need representation that's going to take care of the majority of us. No one is going to make everybody happy. We know that. But let's come together and find those representatives that overall has everyone's best interest so that we can move forward. We deserve that.
If anybody wants to reach out to you, or if you go to your website for your campaign.
My website is dawn4texas.org. I also have a Facebook page, Dawn Richardson, for State Representative HD54. Also on Instagram, I have a TikTok. And you have all my contact information on all those pages. And please reach out. People do already. I've helped solve a few problems, and I'm not even elected yet. So if you have a situation I need to know about that you think I can help get you to the right people, please. That's what this is all about. This is not a popularity contest for me. I'm really serious about representing you.
You heard it right there. We have the one and only Miss Dawn Richardson right here in the house, educator for 40 years, still being a community service-driven public servant. That's what she is, out here working in the community and changing lives. And like I said, the word of the week is knowledge and understanding the currency of knowledge. And what are you going to do to apply your knowledge to the everyday world to make it better. So with that being said, this is Dr. Rodney Duckett with the Lively Art of Conversation, where we live, we learn, we earn, we pass it along. And I will end with knowledge.